you have to understand your core competency. And if your goal is to build a big agency, if your goal is to build a big thing, not everybody has that goal. Everybody has like, I want to be great at what I do. I want to stay lean. I want to make some cash. Awesome. That's fantastic. But there's still an obligation that if you have people and businesses that are looking for you to help serve them, you need an option for them to go to, and you should be compensated for that. Welcome back to the Agency Algorithm. We actually are back in the saddle, and Josh and I are cranking out as many and as much pieces of content as we possibly can, because Baby Shaq is coming any day now, dude. Literally any single day. It's kind of wild.
Mama Shanice is ready. She's ready to deliver.
Dude, she's walking around with like shirt just showing belly. Like it's just basically shirt, belly, pants. Like that's all it is all day long.
I love it, man.
And so it's been pretty cool. Like I think we're very fortunate, we're very blessed that we have so much family and friends. Like literally, dude, last night, Shanice she loves Facebook Marketplace, and she's like, what deals am I going to get? Because it's whatever I'm going to get on this. I basically put a budget. I was like, hey, we can buy as much baby stuff as you want under this amount. And so she's like, oh, okay. Like I take that as a challenge. So she's on Facebook Marketplace, hustling, grinding, and the two big pieces. Like for the baby stuff, basically you have the baby, you have all the things for it, and then you don't really need it unless you're like in a full-on production of I'm going to make spit out a bunch of kids. So a lot of these products you can find, you just kind of like start haggling and start messaging people. So last night there's this one stroller. I don't even remember the name of it, but basically it's a car seat that transforms into a stroller like that. And I was like, oh, that's sick. Like we should go get that. So she's like, babe, we're not paying $500 for this. We're paying $300. I just got to find it. It's like, sure. Okay, let's find this. Finds it. She's like, we got to meet at Devon's parking lot in 2 hours. I was like, this is a drug deal. This is a drug deal. This is a baby product. So we end up getting there. We buy a stroller, and this guy was like, yeah, it served my wife and I fantastic. Our baby's too big now. And he just like, here's the sun cover, here's the base, here's the attachments. I was like, dude, I felt like I should have given this guy more money because he just hooked it up. But this is a wild thing. And this is why we love the baby space so much, because there's just so much shit to sell people.
Yeah, it's a community too. It's like they're hooking you up, and it's like you guys will probably hook up the next person, and you're ready to get rid of your baby stuff.
It's like an unspoken, oh, we got you. Like we use this. This is good. You're good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, man.
Thanks, dude. Well, okay. So today is actually something that I was actually this has been on my mind for two specific reasons. One, I'm rebuilding our sales process for inbound on core service. And I'm thinking about what does the relationship look like of lead comes in on core service, and at what point does lead, aka client, aka ICP, move from core service to secondary, tertiary, fourth service, especially if you have multiple services. And I think a lot of these earlier games, especially when having these conversations with these smaller agencies or even just mid-sized agencies, their process of when do I tell them we do these other things really, really well and how to do it. And I have some thoughts on this stuff.
I mean, I think initially, like you got to win on the first service, right? Like you can't be upselling if you're not winning on the first service that you sold in, right? So I think that's the first domino to knock over. And then from there, I think there is some strategy that probably needs to be done on like, hey, in order to contribute highest to this brand and push growth even further, what do they actually need? Because I think sometimes we get in this position of like, oh yeah, like let's just upsell to upsell, right? We're going to collect more revenue, which is, yeah, that's the goal. But it's like, how can we contribute positively to the brand, whether that's through creative, retention, like what's going to contribute the most right now based off of your professional marketing opinion?
Well, it's not, and it's not even just for brands. So it's services in general. Like even if you're servicing accounts, even if you're local businesses, it's understanding your client, understanding who you're selling to so intimately to know what next to position them. So here's how we do ours. So we have two inbound areas. So someone will come in for us on the paid media side. Someone will come into us on the retention side. So we have one master presentation. And so when they come in, it goes like, they tell us right away, inquiry, here's what we're spending, here's how big the list is, so we need the 2 qualifying areas. We are interested in Meta and Google, not interested in email. Awesome. I still want them to know that we could do that, so here's what we do at the beginning. So as that comes in and we start doing our initial audit, and the easiest way forward is when we start doing the initial audit and all the deck sites. So we go through, here's your Meta audit, here's your Google audit. And then when we go into like, here's before the pricing hits them, we really go like, here's what it looks like to work with us as we're a full service team. And we have 2 separate teams operate and can service all of them. And here's what it looks like if you were to work with both of us. Here's the team on acquisition. Here's the team on retention. And here's all the capabilities. I know you're not needing us. I just want to check for clarity. You don't necessarily need this right now. We let that dialogue happen. Awesome. Here's what they go into the pricing for the core service that you want. So they know for that conversation to happen, and we have to hope that onboard on the back of it is going to be smooth enough. But this conversation happens on basically after discovery, because we're having initial calls. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to bring up an idea around a service if they don't need it. If anything, it's a quick question. You don't need email, correct? Correct. Moving on. But in that initial that secondary call where we're doing the audit, we're reminding them of the capabilities that we have. And so, sometimes we'll just be like, we can give you an audit and give you a direction of what you need anyways, just to plant the seed of authority. What do you think about that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like one of those like, hey, worst case scenario, you might figure out a couple strategies. We might be able to find something that will contribute to you guys generating more sales. Like that's what it kind of boils down to, right? Is when you're doing these audits for them, it's like, cool, like, hey, worst case scenario, you're gonna learn something that you might not be doing right now to capture more revenue. Like, doesn't that sound good?
Well, this literally just happened to us. So we had a lead come into it, and he was he was like, I want paid media and I want email. And then over the calls and over the kind of dialogue back and forth, he was a little bit unsure because he's been burned in the past on agencies, on acquisition. He himself is good at acquisition, and I made the executive call. I was like, "Hey, look, actually, don't hire us for this. You do not need us for this. But I do believe that we are incredible at running the email." And he goes, "You're right. My sister's been running it. She's good, but she's not great." I was like, "Let me just check it. Let me just check it. There's no need for you to any cost. If anything, she can take it and implement herself." That deal ended up closing. That wasn't even on the initial conversation, because you have to remember, if you're closing on acquisition side and on the retention side, acquisition specifically, you have the multiple platforms. You have Google, you have I'm just gonna go Meta, you have TikTok, and you have Snap, and these like auxiliary platforms, Pinterest auxiliary. Well, Google, you can sell service, but you also can sell feed management. So that's actually 2 core services within that. Then you go into Meta and you go, yeah, you can go sell management of this, but on the back of that, you need to sell potentially the creative or the creator outbound. Same with TikTok. So there's a congruency of what could potentially be sold. And this is something I talked about in 2023 on stage. And you have to understand that the stickiness of your service is dependent on the market knowledge. The stickiness of this service is dependent on the market knowledge. What this means is the more people yapping and talking about tactics on a specific platform, the more someone's going to have a wandering eye. For the longest time, that's paid media, that's acquisition, that's Google. There's always some strategies coming out. Email, you got good designs, you have good execution, you're inboxing, you're not really going to go anywhere. There's not really too much to talk about in this space. So you have to realize, my opinion to anybody like in this, what are we offering? What could we do to extract a little bit more LTV? How can you have your designers, how could you have your landing page builders move towards the retention and learn as fast as you can?
I understand that from the acquisition side and the initial conversations of like, hey, like this is how we're going to try and fit in more service on the front end. And what I was trying to get to at the beginning of the conversation was more like, hey, once you've done the initial service for them, how are you guys doing your upsells internally? Like with your team, like once it's past the initial sales stage.
So we have 2 opportunities. So there's an individual that's in charge of this relationship. And in our team, her name is Rebecca. That's she, and her role is to understand. Basically, it's like a living NPS score.
Okay, what's the name of her position?
So her position, I would call her integrations specialist. She would fall underneath the COO role or the operational role. The name, I think the title is kind of irrelevant specific on this, but she is the one that has the pulse of client and what they're requesting, as well as what our team capacity and our ability to fulfill on. So she sits in this, and I think at our size that makes sense. This most likely falls on the shoulders of project manager, person in communication, like your communication point of contact that's in between client. Like that's probably the place that this lives in if you aren't at the size of us. And then what her job is to is on these calls, because you're either doing two things. You're either having ongoing conversations in Slack, you're either having bi-weekly calls or weekly calls. And on these topics, and we actually just went through this with a smaller team, it's our duty to continue to ask about other areas of the business so that we can understand how to best do our job. Because we offer everything, we can ask these questions and have a solution for it, which leads us to how fast can we get them to an audit so that we can show our quality and our ability to execute. If you don't offer this service, and I'll talk about how we actually do this technically, if you don't offer that service, this should be a reminder of a list of how many of your clients are asking for something else that you don't do. And that means it's your job and duty to find a referral partner and find a cost and margin that makes sense for you to get paid. Or two, should I have the ability to hire a junior or someone that can execute this at a discounted rate to get a new service up and running? Let's park this over here for a second, okay? If we go back to the three areas of communication that the client most likely is already used to having. One, on initial intake. There's a lot of teams coming together. There's a lot of learning initially at the beginning. This should be in conversation at least twice. But from the time that you discovery, you're asking, is it worth it? Is it not worth it to go down the service? Cool. When you do the audit, you're reminding them, hey, we have this service over here. We have this ability to do it. No bites again. No problem. We're not going to talk about it. You get them onboarded, you start delivering for them for the first week to 2 weeks. Now you're halfway in on that first month. Most people are doing month to month or the first initial 3 months. By month two on a 3-month initial contract, which most of these people are closing anyways, this is the opportunity that you're either winning and doing great for them, you're doing just enough that you're going to fight to keep them to that third month, or they're going to leave you. So at this point, you have this understanding of like, I've had maybe 4 phone calls if it's a weekly call. I've had a couple Slacks back and forth. I've had maybe 1 monthly reporting deck. If you aren't doing what you said you're doing, there's no way you're going to bring this up of like, here's this other thing I have. I don't even like you for what I initially wanted.
For sure.
So you can't even bring this into a conversation until you're 2 months in and they've proven like, hey, you love us. Awesome, you're going to love us even more, especially I can do this X service for you at a most likely discounted rate, because again, the more hooks and talons we have in them, which is the more services we offer, the likelihood of them staying with us increases.
It's more of like that full service model. It's hard to uproot. I always relay this to like financial services of like a tax service or a CPA or CFO service. Man, those services are so sticky. Why? Because there's like you said, it's like the talent example that you gave. They're so deeply rooted into the business, and to uproot those pieces becomes just a massive burden. It's a headache and a half, right? Imagine uprooting your entire marketing department from creative to paid media, retention. Everything has to be uprooted and moved to somewhere else. It's a very difficult thing to do for a brand, because chances are you'll pause campaigns, pause emails to transfer over into another agency.
Dude, people don't like change. And even if things are losing, you start building these stories in your mind of like, oh, they're good, they're going to stay. Like, they'll turn it around. Like, there's so many things to say because it's familiar. Like, people don't like the unknown. And so rotating against this agency stuff, it's very difficult. So let's talk about,
Yeah.
you're having 2 reminders by the time they get up and running. By week 2, week 3, if you're winning for the first month. At first month look back, if the attitude and the success and the camaraderie and the cohesion is strong, that's the first reminder of like, hey, we have these other things. We'd love to get somebody to give a second opinion on this. Say you don't have another service to sell. What do you suggest? But you know that they love you, you're doing good. What else can you offer them? What do you think?
Yeah, good question. So I think there's a couple different routes that you can take when it comes to capturing more revenue when you don't offer the specific service. One being, you could find a partner that does offer it, right? Whether that's another agency that runs in tandem with you, more like I wouldn't necessarily say white labeled, but like it could be a white labeled service, right? Where you're
Could
using
be
another agency.
partner.
Yeah, we used to do that. I mean, I think we used to do that with you. for creative.
We did.
We
did.
used to white label under you guys, right? And then eventually that just turned into a good referral partnership.
Correct.
I think those are the opportunities that people do not take advantage of enough. Like they see agencies as competitors and they don't think about, hey, how can I look at other vendors or other people that are serving the same marketplace as me but don't do the exact same thing as me, and how can we share clientele together? That's how we grew our agency so fast. Was there was very few people producing content at scale the way that we were, and at that time the algorithm or how paid media was done was power of creative and volume of creative through the ecosystem.
We sent you so much business because we're like, we just can't do that.
It was absurd. Yeah. And that's eventually why you guys built out a creative team yourself, because you're like, we're passing on hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue every month by not having this in-house.
Dude, you're so spot on. You just lit me up on this stuff because you're just reminding me why that worked, because you have to understand your core competency. And if your goal is to build a big agency, if your goal is to build a big thing, not everybody has that goal. Everybody has like, I want to be great at what I do. I want to stay lean. I want to make some cash. Awesome.
Sure.
That's fantastic. But there's still an obligation that if you have people and businesses that are looking for you to help serve them, you need an option for them to go to. And you should be compensated for that.
Especially when it contributes to the service that you're delivering for them already. Because content played a huge role in your guys' ability to run paid media. Now,
Correct.
Whether that it was always a positive thing or sometimes a negative thing. It's like sometimes the content is subjective, and sometimes content doesn't convert, right? So it's like, but for the ecosystem itself of what we do as agencies, when you can get another piece of the puzzle figured out and you have more control of those levers, then it's going to be a little bit stickier to keep that client around, and you're going to be able to provide better results. So those referral partners become really important.
Because it's fantastic because you're going to put me into a place of like, let's evaluate, like, what are the factors that provide decision making on referral partners and when to do it. We run a for-profit business. Most of us in this agency space do. This agency space is not easy. It's a little bit frustrating at times. Some say it would suck. Some would say, if you can get paid on not having to provide the service to give you more cash flow, to allow you to reinvest in your current service or bring on a more qualified employee to help you fulfill your service, you should do this. Especially if you have a partner that you trust, that your reputation, your name is dependent upon, you should provide them business, because then it's always going to come back in your direction. So why we do this, partnerships is a huge, huge thing. And oftentimes partnerships in our agency space is talked about agency with a SaaS provider or vendor. Agency to agency has been the biggest way to continue to grow. And there's a lot of conversation around what Klaviyo is doing in this marketplace to go after agencies and what their service is when agencies built the business of Klaviyo. When you have someone that you trust, that you're able to take the correct margin on with their pricing in consideration that aligns with your pricing so that you can be paid consistently on cash coming in, it is so helpful because it provides you a little bit of cushion. And once you understand what clients are willing to pay for instance, $2,500 packages of content for paid media, and they're already spending $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Awesome. If you're the business owner that you really are, you're starting to think about who else can I partner or who else can I train to trust that can get this executed for me, and I can take a little bit higher margin on them, and then I can have that service added in. So that pricing is so important. The quality of work is so important, and the consistency of how that team is playing. That's how we start learning what other services we can offer.
100%. Yeah. I mean, hit it dead nuts. And we had referral partners like this all over the place because for us, like, we ran paid media, but there were other services that we didn't offer. So we had other referral partners for like retention, for example. Like, we never did retention as an agency, and so we referred that out, right? But it's like, one, we the only thing that we did under a white label with our agency was Google, right? We used a white label and we marked up that service to make sure that we cover the cost of what it would take for that person to run it. But then we would just make profit from it as well. So people also have to understand, like, these partnerships can be a profit center for your business as well, where it's like you're just marking up what they're going to charge you, an extra $1,000, $2,000, just because you're a little bit more of an established agency and you might get the deal flow that they can't get yet. So if you're kind of like a growing and expanding agency, think about this also as a solid profit center for you, where you don't even have to manage the fulfillment. You just have to manage a little bit of the relationship and the sales process.
Do you know what, that you reminded me of somebody that gave me a cold intro. He's like, "Hey Nick, if you ever get business, if you ever get," he literally is in my Twitter DMs. Sorry, I'm going to read it real quick. I'm not going to say the person, but I would approach it differently. "Hey, do you ever come across clients that need SEO or bookkeeping? How would you have changed that cold open?"
That's a great question. I mean, we have our scripts that we utilize, but maybe not the SEO part. Like, it's so random. That's
For
two.
referral partners, right? Like, yeah,
That's two
what?
totally different services, SEO and bookkeeping. Like, I would have just done one. Like, hey, do you have any clients that you pass on for bookkeeping, or like, do you know anyone in the space that passes on bookkeeping?
This doesn't stoke me. This doesn't be like, "Oh, this dude must be the best at SEO because he's doing bookkeeping."
Yeah, like the two don't correlate.
Yeah, like if it's SEO, it's like, "Oh, we have great SEO and copywriting." I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's good. But what I would say, if you're looking to build referral partners, here's how I would approach this for someone that's a little bit larger in the space, or someone that you like. I really like their work. They probably got great clients. They probably got great logos that I would want on my agency. I'd approach it like this.
Mhm.
I have 3-tier services that we can provide you. Here's the core deliverables, and here's the price that we're willing to take to get this done for you. And we're willing to take 5 of these projects a month. We're able to pay you this much money, and we'll be able to go, you get a higher percentage for the first 3 months. That starts to waterfall down into a lower percentage. And then eventually by month 6, we're not going to pay you back on the referral, but hopefully you have a new one coming into us so we can kind of pay you back at the top tier. No one's giving me this. Why? If someone gave me, here's the service that we can provide your clients that we know you guys have, and here's the payment you're going to get over the period of time, I would be throwing you business at this game.
Which of those services, and I'm going to set someone up so good for this right now, which of those services do you guys not fulfill on currently that you'd be stoked to refer out to someone?
Oh, we do not do ongoing CRO. We will build pages, but other way around. We do ongoing CRO, but we will not build a full custom page. So if you built the page and we were able to monitor or optimize off of that page and it integrated with our team easily, all fucking day, we'd give that left and right.
So like one-off type landing pages, but like at volume, kind of.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I mean, so someone listening has a real opportunity right now.
But here, I'll tell you another one. I got one yesterday. "Hey Nick, hope you're doing well. We have some space right now for a few clients. If you have any leads to share, can be smaller 5 to 10K ones too. Our team is really solid at squeezing limited out of rocks," which I like that intro. That was like, "Hope you're doing well. We have some space. If you have anybody coming in, smaller ones for sure." I actually asked back, I was like, "Are you asking for 5K to 10K retainers?" Like, "Nope, this is ad spend. Here's our lowest retainer." If that initial pitch came in, I'd be like, "Cool. I can service that." Like, if I get deal flow like that, I can send it your
But
way.
you got to include the upside of like what do you get, right? It's like, dude, if you want to play with people like Nick or people like the Eddie Maloofs and these guys that are doing big things in the space, you gotta like what is it, the Whiffum frame? What's in it for me?
Yeah. But why do you why? I'll end you. This is, we're running over time on this one, but I'll tell you, why do you think people aren't getting there? What is that? Why don't people think that way immediately?
Because I mean, it comes back to what's in it for them, right? It's like they're not thinking about what's in it for the other person. They're thinking this is a good opportunity for me, and it comes down to really lack of experience. I don't think it's innately a selfish thing. I don't think people do it on purpose to be selfish, but you have to come from a standpoint of how is this going to provide value? It's almost like when people ask me like, "Hey, like, can I grab 30 minutes?" or "Hey, can I take you out for coffee and pick your brain?" It's like, no, no, I don't do that.
I
Like,
would
that's
love
not what
to.
I.
I would love to, but I can't.
Yeah, I would love to, but I can't. Exactly. And so for that, it's like there has to be something at this point with how busy we are, the businesses that we're running, the employees that we have to manage. There has to be something in it for the person that you're aspiring to work with. Otherwise, it's not going to come to fruition.
Dude, this is so true. So true. Because this is another part one too, man. This is stuff that you and I got really lit up on. So I really appreciate this. Well, I guess we're gonna keep, guys. The goal of this is to be creating very quality and relevant content that isn't rambling hard. And so we could probably ramble it on for another 10 to 15 minutes, but then we're pushing 30 plus. So that's not our goal. We don't want to necessarily do this. Josh and I love this. Hey, Josh, what's your other podcast that we talk about often?
Agency Algorithm. It's a super short form. It's like 7 to 15 minutes long. I try to do them 3.
Your daily ops, right?
Yeah, Daily Ops Boost. Or what did I say? Agency Algorithm?
Yeah, that's this, baby.
That's this one. Yeah, Daily Ops Boost. Sorry, Daily Ops Boost. Yeah, we 7 to 15 minute episodes, like super short, impactful. So if you guys have a short attention span and couldn't last the 27 minutes we jammed here today, then go hop over there. Your attention span will be much shorter.
I appreciate you, dude. Again, good to see you. We'll see you guys all next week. We talk more about things that we love and don't love about the agency world. Peace out.
Peace. Yo, what's up, team? I just want to make this quick testimonial for the crew over at Podyssey. They've been absolutely instrumental in getting our podcast Agency Algorithm off the ground. Everything from helping us with the strategy side of setting up the podcast, doing all of the graphics and all of the branding elements that we needed to bring this podcast to life. They took it from A to Z for us, getting it set up, getting it launched, and then coming up and actually helping us, sitting with us and helping us record the podcast, giving us tips, tricks on how to run the best podcast possible. So I guess if you're looking for someone that is going to come in, take the reins, and be able to get you A to Z, starting of the podcast all the way to launch and ongoing support, these guys are the people for you. This is not going to be like they're just going to jump on a call with you and just explain how it's done. It is legitimately done for you. And for me, I'm extremely busy right now. I'm leading a team of 9-10 people and also serving about 45 different clients. There's a lot of things moving in my day-to-day. So the ability to schedule the podcast, come up with the thumbnails, the titles, the descriptions, making sure the show notes are uploaded in the right spot is a very daunting task for me. So they're taking a lot off my plate by doing this. We've been wanting to launch a podcast for such a long time, and now that we are up and running, it's so easy to just come record content once a week, and then they take the reins, they take over everything, get it posted, and have a consistent schedule on posting content, which is the hardest part about posting content. So if you guys are interested in joining with Podyssey, I would highly recommend them. They've been a game changer in launching this podcast, and I'm sure that they would be a game changer in launching yours.